Hello, R J Dent in my library, and the one book that I would like to look at today is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. It's a classic novel. It's never been out of print. It deserves not to be. It's wonderful. It really is. Here's the Penguin Popular Classic Edition, which is my teaching copy with all the various highlights and such like in it that I need for teaching. A wonderful book. As you may know, it's three interlocking narratives, which means that the first, Captain Robert Walton, is telling his story in the first person narrative, which he then tells about. They pick up Victor Frankenstein in the Antarctic, and Victor Frankenstein then starts to tell his story, which Robert Walton writes down in his journal. And then finally Victor Frankenstein, as he's telling his story, tells about the creature that he created, which is now looking for him for revenge. And at some point the creature begins to tell Frankenstein its story, which he then writes down and then conveys to Robert Walton, who then writes it down in his journal. Robert Walton then allows Victor Frankenstein to go through his journal and correct his story wherever he feels like he needs to. So it's an interesting mix of narrators who are allowed to tamper with the narrative of other narrators. And of course it's all mediated through Robert Walton. And then finally we have Mary Shelley has written an introduction to it, which frames the whole thing. It sort of tells us what we're supposed to think about the novel, and so on and so forth. So there we have Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. It's a very well told story, and when you think that Mary Shelley was only 19 when she wrote it, it's absolutely fantastic. This one here, The Essential Frankenstein, as you can see from the front there, the definitive annotated edition of Mary Shelley's classic novel. Now, it is, and it's very, very good, but it's also got some extra material in it as well, which includes a complete novel by Mary Shelley. It's got a really good introduction. It's got the whole of the thing. Then it's got Mary Shelley's introduction of the 1831 edition, and then it's got contemporary reviews, chronology of events, a selected filmography of adaptations of Frankenstein, something called Phantasmagoria. So all in all, an absolutely fantastic collection of extra material in with the definitive annotated edition of Mary Shelley's classical novel. And as you can see, the annotations at the bottom of each page, if there's anything that's not clear, the annotations make it clear. It's also illustrated, which I didn't mention. So yeah, very, very good. A wonderful edition. It really is. If you haven't read it, it is incredibly worth reading. It's a fantastic novel, well written. It will resonate with you long after you've finished reading it. Okay, and that's Frankenstein by Mary Shelley.